The year was 2187, and Earth had finally made it to the stars. Humans had built ships that could travel faster than light, and now they were meeting aliens from all over the galaxy. Jake Morrison stood on the observation deck of the Horizon's Edge, looking out at the massive space station called Unity Prime. It was bigger than any city he had ever seen, with ships from 100 different worlds docked at its ports. Jake was 28 years old, with brown hair and an easy smile. He wasn't a soldier or a scientist. He was a chef. Back home in New Orleans, his family had owned a small restaurant for 3 generations. His grandmother had taught him everything about cooking, and she always said the same thing: food is love you can taste. When Earth joined the Galactic Federation, they needed people to share human culture with the aliens. Jake had volunteered immediately. Now he was here, representing Earth at the biggest diplomatic meeting in human history. He wore a simple white chef's jacket with a small Earth flag on the shoulder. In his quarters, he had cases full of spices, ingredients, and cooking tools from home. His job was to show the galaxy what human food could do. The reception hall was enormous. Aliens of every shape and size filled the room. Some walked on 2 legs, some on 4, and some floated in the air. Jake had studied alien biology for months, but seeing them in person was different. There were beings made of crystal that sparkled in the light. There were fuzzy creatures with too many eyes. There were giants twice as tall as humans and tiny beings no bigger than his hand. Jake stood near the food tables, watching everyone. Most aliens stayed with their own kind, talking in groups. The room buzzed with conversation in 100 different languages, but everyone wore translators that turned the words into something they could understand. That's when he saw her. She stood alone near a tall window, away from the crowd. She was beautiful in a way that took his breath away. She was taller than him, maybe 7 feet, with skin that seemed to glow from within. Her skin was a pale silver blue color, smooth and perfect, but as Jake watched, dark purple streaks flickered across her skin like storm clouds. His translator beeped softly. A small alien near him noticed where he was looking. "That's Princess Zara," the alien said. "Daughter of King Vorath of the Zeridian Empire. Very important. Very powerful." Jake nodded his thanks. He kept watching the princess. She looked tired. No, more than tired. She looked sick. The purple color in her skin was spreading. She held herself very straight, very proud, but he could see her hands shaking slightly. Something made him walk over to her. Maybe it was the chef in him, always wanting to feed people. Maybe it was something else. He stopped a respectful distance away and gave a small bow. "Princess Zara, I'm Jake Morrison from Earth. I couldn't help but notice you seem unwell. Is there anything I can do to help?" She turned to look at him. Her eyes were large and golden with no white showing. They studied him carefully. "You are very direct for a diplomat, human." "I'm not really a diplomat," Jake admitted. "I'm a chef. I'm here to cook." For the first time, something like interest showed in her eyes. "A chef." She looked back out the window. "I have not eaten a proper meal in 12 days. Jake's eyes widened. 12 days? But there's food everywhere here, not for me. Her voice was quiet, almost embarrassed. "My people have very sensitive biology. We can only eat certain things prepared in very specific ways. The station's food is wrong for us. Our ship's supplies ran out days ago." She paused. "I should not be telling you this. It is not proper for a princess to complain." A small alien stood near her, almost invisible until it spoke. "The princess is too proud," it said in a squeaky voice. "She grows weaker every day. Her father is in meetings and does not notice. I am her translator and assistant. I am worried." Jake felt anger rise in his chest. This princess, this important person, was starving and nobody was helping her. "What do you normally eat?" he asked. Zara looked at him again. "Fresh foods. Natural ingredients. Nothing artificial or heavily processed. Fruits, vegetables, some proteins, but prepared correctly. One wrong spice and I could become very ill." Jake's mind was already working. "I have ingredients from Earth in my quarters. Fresh things. Natural things. Would you let me try to make something for you? I can't promise it will work, but I'd like to try." Zara studied him for a long moment. The translator whispered urgently in her ear. Finally, she nodded. "Very well, Chef Jake Morrison, but it must be in private. I cannot show weakness in public." An hour later, Jake was in the small kitchen attached to his quarters. Zara sat at a simple table watching him work. Her translator stood nearby, scanning everything Jake touched with a small device. Jake had decided to start simple. He sliced fresh vegetables, carrots, peppers, tomatoes. He drizzled them with olive oil and honey, added just a little salt and some herbs. He roasted them slowly until they were soft and sweet. While they cooked, he mixed flour and water, kneading it into dough. He baked small rolls of bread, fresh and warm. Finally, he prepared a fruit salad, strawberries, blueberries, pieces of mango, all fresh and ripe. The translator kept scanning. No toxins detected. Chemical composition appears compatible. Jake arranged everything on a simple white plate. The roasted vegetables were golden and glistening. The bread was still steaming. The fruit looked like jewels. He set it in front of Zara. She looked at the food for a long moment. Then slowly she picked up a piece of roasted carrot with her fingers. She brought it to her lips. She took a bite. The change was instant. Her skin, which had been flickering with dark purple, suddenly exploded with brilliant golden light. It was like watching sunrise. The gold spread from her face down her neck, across her arms, until her whole body glowed like a star. Jake stepped back, startled. "Are you okay? Did I hurt you?" But Zara wasn't hurt. Tears were running down her face. "No," she whispered. "No, this is..." She took another bite. Then another. The golden light pulsed brighter with each taste. "I have never, in all my life. I didn't know food could be like this." She ate everything. The vegetables, the bread, every piece of fruit. She ate slowly, carefully, like each bite was precious. When she finished, she sat back, and her skin was a healthy, glowing silver blue. The purple was completely gone. "Thank you," she said softly. "You have saved my life, Chef Jake Morrison." Jake smiled. "It was just some vegetables and bread." "No." She looked at him with those golden eyes. "It was much more than that." She stood, strong now, no longer shaking. Could you make more food for me? While I am here?" Jake nodded. "I'd be honored." As she left, escorted by her translator, Jake stood in his small kitchen and wondered what he had just started. He had no idea that this simple meal was the beginning of something that would change both their lives and maybe even change the galaxy itself. The next evening, Jake waited in his quarters. He had spent the whole day preparing. He had made fresh pasta from scratch, rolling the dough thin and cutting it into perfect ribbons. The sauce was simple: tomatoes, garlic, olive oil, and basil. Nothing fancy, just good, honest food. A soft knock came at his door. Zara entered, wearing a long, flowing dress that changed colors as she moved. Her skin was healthy now, glowing with soft blue and silver light. Her translator followed close behind. "I have been thinking about your food all day," Zara admitted as she sat down. "Is that strange?" Jake laughed. "Not at all. That's the best compliment a chef can get." Over dinner they talked. Jake learned that Zara had spent her whole life being a princess. She had tutors instead of friends. She had duties instead of hobbies. She was expected to be perfect always. "I have never chosen anything for myself," she said quietly. "Not my clothes, not my schedule, not even who I talk to. But this," she gestured at the pasta, "this is the first thing I have chosen in a long time." Jake told her about New Orleans, about growing up in his grandmother's kitchen. "She died when I was 20, he said. "But every time I cook, I feel like she's there with me. She used to say that cooking is the only magic that's real. You take simple things and turn them into something that makes people happy." "Your grandmother was wise," Zara said. They met every evening after that. Jake cooked something different each time. He made sushi one night, teaching Zara how to use chopsticks. She laughed when the rice fell apart in her fingers. He made tacos another night, and Zara's skin turned bright orange with surprise at the spicy salsa. He made curry, and her skin swirled with a dozen colors as she tasted all the different spices. But the food wasn't the important part anymore. It was the talking. It was the way Zara smiled when she tried something new. It was the way Jake found himself cooking with more care, wanting each dish to be perfect for her. Word spread quickly through the station. The human chef could make food that the Zeridian princess would eat. Soon other diplomats were asking Jake for advice. King Vorath himself summoned Jake to a formal meeting. The throne room was huge and cold. King Vorath sat on a raised platform surrounded by advisors. He was massive, even bigger than his daughter, with skin that shifted between deep blue and purple. His eyes were hard as he looked down at Jake. "You are the human feeding my daughter," Vorath said. It wasn't a question. "Yes, Your Majesty," Jake said, trying not to sound nervous. "Why?" The question caught Jake off guard. "Because she was hungry, sir." Vorath stared at him for a long moment. Then, surprisingly, his skin flickered with a lighter blue. A simple answer. Perhaps too simple. But my daughter is healthier than she has been in months. She smiles now. For that, you have my permission to continue. One of the advisors stepped forward. He was thin and tall, with skin that looked like dark metal. Your Majesty, surely this is beneath the princess. Human food? Human company? His voice dripped with contempt. This is Lord Kex, my chief advisor, Vorath said. Lord Kex looked at Jake like he was something stuck to his shoe. I question whether this human truly understands the complexity of proper cuisine. Any primitive can heat food over a fire. True culinary art requires sophistication, refinement, things I doubt humans possess. Jake felt his face get hot. He wanted to argue, to defend himself. But this was the king's throne room. He kept his mouth shut. Vorath seemed amused by the tension. An interesting point, Lord Kex. Perhaps we should test this human skill. A competition. Chef Morrison will compete against the finest chefs on Unity Prime. If he wins, he may continue serving my daughter. If he loses, Vorath shrugged. He returns to Earth. I accept, Jake said before he could think better of it. Lord Kex smiled, and it wasn't a nice smile. Excellent. I look forward to seeing you fail, human. That evening, Jake was too upset to cook properly. He burned the rice. He oversalted the vegetables. When Zara arrived, she took one look at his face and knew something was wrong. Tell me, she said. Jake explained about the competition, about Lord Kex's insults. I shouldn't have accepted, he said. I'm just a chef from a small restaurant. These are the best cooks in the galaxy. I'm going to embarrass Earth. I'm going to embarrass you. Zara reached across the table and took his hand. Her skin was warm and tingled slightly where it touched his. Do you know why your food is special, Jake? He shook his head. Because when you cook, I can taste that you care. Every dish you make for me, I can feel that you are cooking with your whole heart. That is not something that can be taught. That is not something that techniques or expensive ingredients can replace. Her skin turned soft pink. My people believe that food carries the essence of the one who prepares it. Your food tastes like kindness, like joy, like someone who sees me as Zara, not as a princess. Jake felt something warm spread through his chest. I'm still going to lose. Maybe, Zara said. But you will not be alone. I believe in you, Jake Morrison. Over the next 3 days, Jake prepared for the competition. He thought about what to cook. He could try to copy alien techniques, use fancy equipment, make complicated dishes. But that wasn't him. That wasn't what Zara liked about his food. He decided to keep it simple. He would cook human food, real Earth food. He would cook the dishes his grandmother taught him. He would cook with love and honesty. And if that wasn't enough, at least he would fail being himself. Zara visited him each evening. She didn't eat much, saying she wanted to save her appetite for the competition, but she sat with him while he practiced. She told him stories about her homeworld, about cities made of crystal and oceans that glowed in the dark. He told her about Mardi Gras, about jazz music, about hot summer nights by the Mississippi River. On the third evening, as she was leaving, Zara paused at the door. Jake, I need to tell you something. What is it? I care about you. Her skin turned deep pink, almost red. More than I should. More than is proper. You are the first real friend I have ever had. Maybe more than a friend. And I am afraid of what will happen tomorrow. Jake stood up and walked over to her. I care about you too, Zara. Whatever happens tomorrow, that won't change. She smiled, sad and beautiful. In my world, a princess cannot choose who she cares for. There are expectations, political marriages, alliances to maintain. She touched his face gently. But right now, just for tonight, I choose you. She left and Jake stood alone in his quarters. Tomorrow he would compete against the best chefs in the galaxy. Tomorrow he might fail and have to leave. But tonight, Princess Zara had chosen him, and that made him feel like the luckiest person in the universe. The competition arena was set up in the largest hall on Unity Prime. Thousands of beings filled the seats, chattering in excitement. Jake stood at his cooking station, looking at the 5 other competitors. Each one looked confident and skilled. To his left was a being made entirely of blue crystal. Light bent and refracted through its body in impossible ways. To his right was a massive creature with 4 arms, each holding a different knife. Across from him was a delicate aquatic being in a water-filled suit. Next to that was something that looked like a walking mushroom, glowing with soft green light. The last competitor wasn't one being but dozens, all connected somehow, moving in perfect unison like a single organism. Jake felt very small and very human. King Vorath sat in the center of the judges' table, flanked by ambassadors from a dozen worlds. Lord Keck stood nearby, his arms crossed, looking pleased with himself. And there, in a special seat to the side, was Zara. When Jake looked at her, her skin flickered gold for just a moment. It gave him courage. A floating sphere announced the rules. Chefs will have 4 hours to prepare a complete meal. The meal must tell a story. It must evoke emotion. It must show the best of your world's cuisine. Judges will score based on taste, presentation, technique, and emotional impact. Begin! The arena exploded with activity. The crystal being created geometric patterns of light that somehow crystallized into food. The four-armed chef attacked a massive piece of meat with terrifying precision. The aquatic being wove water and ingredients together in a graceful dance. The mushroom creature grew smaller fungi that released clouds of spores. The hive mind moved like liquid, dozens of hands working in perfect coordination. Jake took a deep breath and started with what he knew: potato soup. His grandmother's recipe. He peeled potatoes slowly, carefully. He chopped onions until his eyes watered. He made stock from scratch, letting it simmer with herbs. It was simple, basic, but it was real. While the soup cooked, he prepared his other courses. Sushi rolls, but not traditional ones. He added Louisiana spices to the rice, a fusion of two worlds he loved. He rubbed a leg of lamb with Mediterranean spices and set it to roast slowly. He made pizza dough, kneading it by hand until it was perfect, then stretching it thin. Finally, he started on dessert: chocolate lava cake with vanilla ice cream. Around him, the other chefs created miracles. The crystal being's food literally sang as it was plated. The four-armed chef's meat was carved into sculptures. The aquatic being's dishes floated in bubbles of flavored water. The mushroom's food glowed in the dark. The hive mind created a meal where every element was perfectly synchronized. Jake's food looked plain by comparison, but it smelled like home. Time ran out. The judges began their tasting. They tried each chef's creation, their faces unreadable. When they reached Jake's station, he presented his 5 courses and told their story. "This soup represents struggle," he said quietly. "Potatoes kept my ancestors alive during hard times. This dish remembers that we all start from simple places. These sushi rolls represent adaptation, 2 cultures coming together to create something new. It shows that we can change and grow while respecting where we came from. This lamb represents celebration and community. On Earth, we gather around meals like this. We share food and stories with the people we love. This pizza represents joy. Simple ingredients, simply prepared, but it makes people smile. It reminds us that happiness doesn't have to be complicated. And this cake represents hope, sweet and warm with the promise of good things to come. It's the dessert my grandmother made when times were hard, to remind us that tomorrow could be better." King Vorath took a bite of the soup. His face showed nothing. He tried the sushi, the lamb, the pizza, the cake. The other judges did the same. Some of them closed their eyes. An elderly ambassador from a bird-like species had tears running down its feathered face. "Why are you crying?" Vorath asked. "This soup," the ambassador said, voice shaking. "It tastes like my childhood. It reminds me of my mother dead these 50 years. How can simple food do this?" A warrior species judge laughed suddenly while eating the pizza, a deep booming sound. "This is joy, pure joy. I have not felt this happy in years." Even Lord Kex, when he tasted the chocolate cake, went very still. His metal-like skin flickered with colors Jake had never seen before. For just a moment, the contempt left his face, replaced by something almost like wonder. Finally, it was Zara's turn. As the guest of honor, she would taste all the dishes and give her opinion. Jake watched as she tried each chef's creation. She was polite about all of them, her skin showing pleasant colors. Then she reached Jake's station. She took a spoonful of soup and her skin turned warm gold. She tried the sushi and ribbons of pink and orange swirled across her arms. The lamb made her glow like candlelight. The pizza turned her bright yellow with happiness. And when she tasted the cake, her whole body illuminated with every color Jake had ever seen on her and more. She looked like a rainbow made of light. She stood there glowing with tears running down her face. The whole arena went silent, staring at her. "This is not just food," she said, her voice carrying across the hall. "This is love. This is memory. This is everything that matters." She looked at Jake, and her eyes held something deep and fierce. "This is what I have been hungry for my whole life. The judges whispered among themselves for a long time. Finally, Vorath stood. "We have made our decision." The other chefs showed impressive skill, remarkable technique, and exotic presentations. But the challenge was to create food that tells a story and evokes emotion. In that regard, one chef exceeded all others. He paused, and Jake's heart hammered in his chest. "The winner is Jake Morrison of Earth." The arena erupted in noise. Some cheered, some protested. Jake stood frozen, unable to believe it.
He had won.
He had actually won. Zara ran down from her seat and threw her arms around him, not caring who saw. Her skin was pure golden light. "You did it," she whispered. "I knew you would." But Jake could see Lord Kex in the background, and the advisor's face was dark with anger. He had been humiliated. His hatred of humans had been proven wrong in front of the whole galaxy. Something told Jake this wasn't over. He had won the competition, but he might have made a dangerous enemy. Still holding Zara, feeling her warmth and seeing her happiness, he couldn't bring himself to regret anything. "We should celebrate," Zara said, pulling back to look at him. "Let me show you the station's gardens. They are beautiful at night." Jake took her hand, both of them glowing in different ways, and followed her out of the arena. Behind them, Lord Kex watched them go, his mind already forming plans to separate them forever. After the competition, everything changed. King Vorath gave Jake an official title, Royal Culinary Consultant. He was given quarters on the Zeridian flagship, closer to the royal family. He was allowed to continue making meals for Princess Zara every evening. But the meals were different now. They lasted longer. Jake and Zara talked about everything. She told him about Zeridian politics, about the pressure she felt to be perfect. He told her about Earth music, about movies, about all the things she had never experienced. They laughed together. They sat in comfortable silence together. And slowly they both realized they were falling in love, Lord Kex noticed. He started appearing at official functions, making comments about how much time the princess spent with the human. "It is unseemly," he told other advisors, loud enough for people to hear. "The princess should be focused on her duties, not on food and friendship with a primitive species." Other political problems were brewing. King Vorath was negotiating with the Draken hegemony, a powerful military empire. The Drakens wanted an alliance with the Zeridians, and alliances were often sealed with marriages. They wanted Princess Zara to marry their crown prince, Commander Theron. One evening, as Jake was preparing dinner, Zara came to his quarters looking worried. Her skin was dark blue, almost purple. "Theron arrives tomorrow," she said quietly. "My father expects me to entertain him, to get to know him." Jake's hand stopped moving. "Is this an arranged marriage?" "Not yet, but it might become one. The Drakens are powerful. An alliance with them would protect my people." She sat down heavily. "I have always known this would happen. I have always known I would have to marry for politics, not for love. Do you want to marry him? I have never met him. But that does not matter. What I want has never mattered." She looked at Jake, and her skin flickered with pink and gold. "Until I met you. You made me think I could have choices. You made me think I could be happy." Jake crossed the room and knelt in front of her chair. "You can be happy, Zara. You deserve to be happy." "Do I?" Her voice was bitter. "I am a princess. My happiness is less important than my people's safety." They sat together in silence, the food forgotten, both of them knowing that something precious was slipping away. Commander Theron arrived the next day. He was huge, even bigger than King Vorath, covered in dark scales that looked like armor. His eyes were cold and calculating. He barely glanced at Zara before launching into discussions with Vorath about military tactics and trade agreements. A formal dinner was arranged. Jake was asked to prepare the meal. As he cooked, he could hear Theron in the dining hall, his voice loud and arrogant. "The Draken military is the strongest in this sector. With our ships and your resources, we would be unstoppable." During the meal, Theron barely tasted Jake's food. When Zara tried to make conversation, he interrupted her. "Politics is not for females to worry about. Your job will be to produce heirs and represent the alliance." Jake, serving the next course, saw Zara's skin flash dark red, the color of anger. But she said nothing. She sat straight and perfect, the obedient princess. Then Theron noticed Jake. "You there, servant? This food is adequate, I suppose, for human cooking. Though I do not understand why the princess wastes time on such primitive cuisine. Draken food is far superior." "I am not a servant," Jake said carefully. I am Royal Culinary Consultant. Theron laughed, a harsh sound. Consultant for what? Earth has nothing to teach the rest of us. You are children playing with fire and calling it technology. Primitive sustenance for primitive beings. The room went silent. Every being there held their breath, waiting to see what would happen. Zara stood up, her skin blazing red and gold. That is enough. Everyone stared at her. Princesses did not raise their voices. Princesses did not contradict guests. Jake Morrison is my friend, she said, her voice shaking with anger. His food is not primitive. It is beautiful. And I will not sit here and listen to you insult him or his world. Vorath's skin turned dark blue with shock. Zara, sit down. No, father. She looked at Theron. I will not marry someone who cannot show respect for the things I care about. I will not marry someone who sees me as a breeding tool. I will not marry you, Commander Theron. The room erupted. Advisors shouted. Theron roared with fury. Vorath stood, his massive frame shaking with anger. Enough. The king's voice silenced everyone. He looked at his daughter. We will discuss this in private. Everyone else leave now. As the room cleared, Jake caught Zara's eye. She gave him a small, sad smile before following her father out. Jake stood alone in the dining hall, his heart pounding. What had just happened? Zara had just refused a political marriage. She had publicly chosen him over duty. Later that night, Zara found Jake in the station's observation deck. They stood together, looking at the stars. My father is furious, she said. He postponed the marriage negotiations, but he is not happy. Lord Kex is telling him that I am too influenced by you, that I am forgetting my duties. Maybe they are right, Jake said. Maybe I am a distraction. No. Zara took his hand. You have given me something I never had. You have given me the freedom to be myself. With you I am not a princess, I am just Zara. And for the first time in my life, that is enough. Jake turned to face her. I love you, Zara. I love you too, Jake Morrison. Her skin turned the softest pink and gold. But I do not know how this can work. We are from different worlds. I have duties. You have your life on Earth. How can we be together? I don't know, Jake admitted. But we will figure it out. Together. They kissed under the stars. Two beings from different worlds. Loving each other against all logic and reason. Neither of them saw Lord Kex watching from the shadows, his face twisted with rage. He had tried to humiliate Jake and failed. He had lost influence with the king. Now the princess was openly defying her father because of this human. Lord Kex made a decision. Jake Morrison had to go, and Kex knew exactly how to make that happen. The next morning, Jake was arrested. Royal guards burst into his quarters and dragged him to a detention cell. The charges were serious. Attempting to poison Princess Zara, using food to make her dependent on him, violating Zeridian food safety laws. Lord Kex had fabricated evidence. False chemical reports, testimony from bought witnesses. It was all lies, but it looked convincing. The punishment for poisoning royalty was severe. Immediate deportation at minimum, possibly death. Jake sat in his cell, stunned. This had to be a mistake. But as the hours passed and no one came to help him, he began to understand. Someone wanted him gone, and they had the power to make it happen. Zara was forbidden from seeing him. When she tried to visit, guards turned her away. She was confined to her quarters, told that she had embarrassed the family enough. But Zara was not the helpless princess anymore. Jake had taught her that she could make choices. Now she would make the biggest choice of her life. She contacted Claire Bennett, Jake's assistant from the human delegation. Together they began to investigate Lord Kex's accusations. If Jake was going to be saved, they would have to work fast. The deportation hearing was in 2 days. Zara and Claire worked through the night. Claire was smart and determined, a young diplomat who had become Jake's friend over the past weeks. She had access to human databases and communication records. Zara used her royal access codes to look through Zeridian files. What they found made Zara's skin turn dark with anger. Lord Kex had been stealing resources meant for the outer colonies. Food, medicine, supplies that poor Zeridians desperately needed. He had been selling them on black markets and keeping the profit. Then he blamed the shortages on human trade, saying Earth was unreliable. Jake's presence had threatened to expose this. As Jake gained influence and trust, people might start asking questions. Lord Kex needed Jake gone before the truth came out. We have proof, Claire said, showing Zara documents. Financial records, communications, everything. But how do we present this? Your father won't want to believe his chief advisor is a traitor. Zara thought hard. Then she remembered something Jake had told her. An old Zeridian custom almost forgotten. The Truth Feast. In ancient times, when two parties had a dispute, they would settle it with a ceremonial meal. Everyone involved would eat together and speak their truth. To lie during a truth feast was considered the worst possible sin. It was sacred law that even a king could not ignore. We invoke the truth feast, Zara said. Once I formally request it, my father cannot refuse. It is ancient law. The next morning, Zara stood before the full diplomatic assembly. Her father was there, Lord Kex, Commander Theron, who had stayed to watch the drama, and ambassadors from dozens of worlds. Jake was brought in wearing restraints, guards on either side of him. I invoke the ancient rite of Truth Feast, Zara announced, her voice clear and strong. I claim that Jake Morrison has been falsely accused. I demand the right to prove his innocence through the sacred custom of our people. Vorath looked shocked. Daughter, this custom has not been used in centuries, but it is still law, father. You cannot refuse. Vorath looked at his advisors. They whispered urgently. Finally, he nodded. Very well. The Truth Feast will be held tonight. All parties will attend. The human will be allowed to prepare one final meal. If he is proven innocent, he goes free. If guilty, he left the threat unfinished. That evening, the feast hall was prepared. Jake was brought from his cell and allowed into the kitchen. Claire handed him a list of ingredients she had gathered. Make it good, she whispered. Everything depends on this. Jake's hands were shaking, but he focused on the food. He decided on dishes that represented truth and honesty. A clear soup that could hide nothing. Fresh bread made with patience and care. Grilled fish, where the quality of the ingredients showed immediately. And for dessert, a simple apple pie. The most honest food he knew. As he cooked, he thought about Zara. He thought about his grandmother. He thought about why food mattered. Food was trust. When you ate something someone made for you, you trusted them not to hurt you. You trusted them to nourish you. That trust was sacred. The meal was served in complete silence. Everyone sat around a massive table. King Vorath at the head, Lord Kex to his right, Zara to his left, Jake next to Zara. Commander Theron, Claire, and various ambassadors and witnesses. According to the ritual, each person would speak their truth while the meal was served. Lord Kex spoke first, repeating his accusations. Jake had manipulated the princess. He had used addictive substances in his food. He had violated safety protocols. His evidence looked official, complete, damning. Jake spoke second. He explained calmly what he had cooked, every ingredient, every technique. He held nothing back. I have never lied to Princess Zara, he said. I have never tried to harm her. I cooked because she was hungry, and later I cooked because I cared about her. That is the complete truth. Then Claire stood up. She presented the financial records. She showed the communications. She laid out piece by piece how Lord Kex had been stealing from the colonies, how he had blamed humans to hide his crimes, how Jake's growing influence threatened to expose everything. The poisoning evidence is fabricated, Claire said. The chemical reports are false. The witnesses were paid, and I can prove all of it. Lord Kex's skin turned strange colors as the evidence piled up. He tried to argue, to deflect, but Claire had everything. Dates, times, transactions, communications in his own hand. The proof was overwhelming. Finally, Vorath spoke. Lord Kex, what do you say to these accusations? Kex stood up, his body shaking. This is all lies. The human woman is lying to protect her friend. But his voice was too loud, too desperate. Everyone at the table could see the truth. He was guilty. Kex tried to run. Guards stopped him at the door. He fought, but it was useless. Within minutes, he was restrained and taken away. The theft, the lies, the false accusations, all of it would be investigated fully. Vorath sat very still, his skin dark blue with shame. I nearly executed an innocent being, he said quietly. I nearly punished someone for feeding my daughter. He looked at Jake. Chef Morrison, I apologize. This was not justice. This was not honor. You are free to go, with the gratitude of the Zeridian throne. Commander Theron stood up. I see that I am not wanted here. Princess Zara has made her feelings clear. I withdraw my marriage proposal. He looked at Jake with something that might have been respect. You are braver than I thought, human. To love a princess despite everything. Perhaps your species is not as primitive as I believed, He left, and the remaining tension drained from the room. Forath looked at his daughter. I have been a poor father. I thought only of politics and power. I forgot that you are not just a princess. You are my child and you deserve happiness. He turned to Jake. If my daughter chooses you, I will not stand in her way. But understand, it will not be easy. There will be challenges. I understand, Your Majesty, Jake said. But I love her. That is worth any challenge. Days passed. Theron left. Lord Kex was put on trial. Peace returned to Unity Prime. Jake and Zara walked through the station gardens talking about the future. I have an idea, Jake said. What if we opened a restaurant here? A place where beings from all worlds could come together over food. A place where differences did not matter, only the shared experience of a good meal. Zara's skin glowed gold. Yes, that is perfect. We could call it the Horizon Table, a place where all worlds meet. 6 months later, the restaurant opened. It was beautiful, with windows looking out at the stars. Beings from 100 species came to eat and talk and learn about each other. Jake cooked, creating fusion dishes that combined Earth ingredients with alien flavors. Zara managed the diplomatic side, turning the restaurant into a hub of cultural exchange. On opening night, surrounded by friends and strangers who were becoming friends, Jake prepared a special dessert for Zara, a delicate tart filled with fruits from her homeworld and strawberries from Earth. When she cut into it, she found a ring inside, made from metals from both their worlds. Jake knelt down in front of everyone. Zara, will you marry me? Her skin blazed with golden light so bright that everyone had to look away. Yes, she said, tears of joy running down her face. Yes, they kissed, and the restaurant erupted in cheers and applause from beings of 100 different species, all celebrating love and hope. King Vorath, sitting in a corner and tasting Jake's cooking for the first time, smiled. His daughter had chosen well. The human could cook. Later, Jake and Zara stood at the window, looking out at the ships coming and going from Unity Prime. Beings from across the galaxy were dining behind them, sharing food and stories. Your grandmother was right, Zara said softly. Food is love you can taste. And you were right too, Jake replied. Sometimes the greatest bridges between worlds are built not with weapons or treaties, but with simple kindness. With sharing a meal with someone who is hungry. They held each other, two beings from different worlds, who had found something universal. Love, trust, and the magic of a meal shared with someone who matters. In the kitchen, the next batch of bread was rising. Aliens were laughing at the tables. Friendships were forming over plates of pasta and bowls of soup. And Jake Morrison, the chef from New Orleans who had traveled to the stars, knew that his grandmother would be proud. He had done what she taught him. He had made food with love, and that love had changed everything.